Hey, I'm Mama J, and I'm rocking with my daddy Marcus J here at Legacy Internet Radio, where independence is the key to building your legacy.
And I come here tonight and plead with you. Believe in yourself and believe that you're somebody. As I said to a group last night, nobody else can do this for us. No document can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Kennisonian or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation. Don't let anybody take your manhood. Be proud of our heritage. As somebody said earlier tonight, we don't have anything to be ashamed of. Somebody told a lie one day. They couched it in language. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look in your dictionary and see the synonyms of the word black. There's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure, high, and clean. But I want to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.
All right, y'all. Ain't no how stepping with Marcus J is live. We in the building, ready for an outstanding show. It is Martin Luther King Day. That's the reason why we started the show with that clip there, and I appreciate everybody for rocking with us. As you can see, we are one person short, so it's going to be John and me tonight taking it in honor of our sister who's not with us tonight, but we appreciate her, and we hope that we see her back here on our next show. You are listening and watching the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio. It's called Ain't No Half Step with Marcus J. It's live right now.
Yeah. It's about that time. It's about that time to get. Yeah.
Button your lip, open your ears, strap on your thinking cap. Socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor and the top sports stories of the week. It's time for Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J.
Sellers has Jordan. Jordan with 2 seconds to go. Puts it up and scores at the buzzer. Michael Jordan has won it for Chicago. Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. He hits one deep to right center. That ball is out of here. The Yankees win the pennant.
They don't have that with Marcus J live from New Den. Legacy Internet Radio. Be down with us tonight at 804-402-2893. Be a part of the flagship show. Heard live from New Den of Legacy Internet Radio. Thank you to everybody who's rocking with us tonight. We appreciate you checking us out live from legacyinternetradio.com, from our YouTube page, Facebook Live, all over the internet. We appreciate y'all rocking with us. We will roll with y'all. As I mentioned, the initial tease, we're down one. Our sister and co-host in my right hand, Steph B, won't be with us tonight. We wish her well. Hopefully, we'll see her back on our next show. So it's me and my brother. And of course, we got a good show for y'all. We look forward to bringing it to y'all. We're going to talk a lot about what today is Martin Luther King Day. There's a story where a white police officer put his hands around the neck of a black woman police officer. That's an odd one. Definitely need to talk about that. We're going to talk about obnoxious fan bases in sports. There are certain sport teams that elicit some obnoxiousness from their fans, and it's not just of one fan base. There's a bunch. We'll get into it. And so we're excited. And so we'll talk about more, but that's where we're going to start. So as we look in the room, you see yours truly, but you see one other person. This is my brother and yours. Our brother John is here with me. What it do, homie?
What's up, my brother? How you doing?
Man, I can't call it. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Everything all right? No, it's good. I just had to.
I'm gravy, man. It's good to be here. It's good to be home. We said that we don't have our sister, but you know what that means? It means it's boys' town.
Yeah, man. All right, so y'all, people who tune in on a regular basis, right? Y'all know the intro, right? And the intro is flooded with all these sports references, right? We kind of shy away from that as much as how the show originated as the green room back in the day. But we're gonna lean a little bit that way tonight because not because Steph is probably a better sports fan than I am, but just the energy of doing some guy stuff, a little testosterone peaking, and yeah, that's what I think we're gonna do tonight. So it's gonna be fun.
And ladies, please don't go nowhere, because I think that we'll keep it in a way that you'll be able to appreciate for those who may not be that big into it. And we shouldn't assume, that our sisters who rock with us every single week can't appreciate sports the way we do. And we're not going to be in here breaking down games, play by play. But there are a few things that I would like to talk about, starting with how this weekend was the first weekend that we had the playoffs in the National Football League. So it was fun watching games. And like I said, I'm not one to break down film in football because that's just not my skill set. But I would like to have a little bit of fun with some of the things that went on, like the Buffalo Bills blowing out New England. I got a kick out of seeing that. I got a kick out of seeing last night the Kansas City Chiefs retired Ben Roethlisberger. I got a kick out of seeing that. I got a kick out of seeing Tom Brady do what Tom Brady does against the Philadelphia Eagles. I got a kick out of seeing that. And I got a kick out of one of the strongest, most long-lasting non-division rivalries in the National Football League with the Dallas Cowboys losing at home to the San Francisco 49ers. I got a kick out of seeing that. So let me get some love in social media. I'm rocking my Virginia Union University alumni gear tonight. Peace to my sister Nikita is checking us out. Yes, so hard to be a Panther, rocking with you because you rolling with us. All right, so John, I had to put a few things on the table. We New England, of course, doesn't have the quarterback that led them to a bunch of Super Bowls, so they're going to struggle. And apparently, they're no longer the big dog in the yard in the AFC East. Tom Brady down in Tampa Bay did what he did against the Eagles. But I think a lot of people want to talk about what happened in Dallas yesterday with the Cowboys losing the game to the 49ers. A lot of people was talking about officiating. I'm not one that really gives a lot of credence to officiating. I'm more along the lines of, you need the officials. You need the officials. It's just like police. You need to have the cops. We complain about them, but it's what it is. So watching that game, there was some places that you can go if you're somebody who wants to complain about officiating. But what I saw was two evenly matched teams. One played harder than the other, and the one that played harder scored more points and won the game.
That's what I saw.
Yeah.
I saw a Dallas Cowboy team who's played like they played last night consistently this whole season, without any energy, without any sense of urgency and without what they needed to win, which was the desire to do so and not the expectation of doing so. Right? So they had that, and you could tell from the opening plays from each one, the way the 49ers played, they played like, we're going to destroy you. You will never play another football game again if we have anything to say about it, and we will take your heart. And the way the Cowboys played was like, we're the Cowboys, and we're gonna win because we're the Cowboys. So, and that was the end of that. As far as what happened in Buffalo, New England, where I don't care, because if they took both of those teams out the National Football League, I would not care. And as far as Tom Brady did too much for New England for me to ever feel anything but hatred for him. Anything Boston, New England up there related to me should burn to the ground. And that's just how it is. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from his ability as an athlete, and his and what he's added to the game. However, he could die a slow and painful death, and I would not mourn.
Let me get a couple of comments in from social media. Let's see. My cousin Selwyn is checking in. He said, "Plain and simple, fam. They lost, choked as usual." Oh man,
I wouldn't call they lost, but I wouldn't call it a choke.
Plain and simple.
They got out energied.
Yeah,
the other team just took it to them.
I think that final play, leaves a lot to be desired. Like when you watch the game, it was a heavyweight title fight. Like, I even when they were down big, I wasn't one watching that game feeling like they were out of the game. Even when they were down, I think it was like 23-7 or something like that. And then they ended up scoring a couple of times, and they were down by 6 at the end. They are who you thought they were. That to me is not a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback. And, I think you had mentioned during our pre-show conversation about how he has the stats that looks like he's great. But for me, he don't pass the eyeball test.
Well, like I was telling you, if you let's remove Brady and the super check guy.
Guys, the Green Bay dude.
Yeah, let's remove them two, right?
Somebody help me out with the Green Bay dude's name. I don't know why I'm.
Those two guys are exceptional at what they do. So let's remove them, right?
Okay.
And you take Dak Prescott, and you can pick any other 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, and you put them in Dallas, you're not going to get a different outcome, right? Dak quarterback outside of those two could be the best, but is definitely in the top 3 of what's left in the league as far as playing the position, right? What he's able to do in the Dallas organization for that team, he may not be the best suited for what's required, but his abilities as a quarterback, I don't think should ever be questioned.
You're a Dallas Cowboys fan.
I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan by default.
From New York.
Right, but I'll explain
You're
it.
You're a Dallas Cowboys fan from New York.
Can I explain it?
Of course, but I'm going to throw shade first.
Okay, go ahead and throw shade.
I'm going to throw shade. Aaron Rodgers, thank you.
Okay,
thanks
you,
for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And
all I know is this.
I'm going to throw shade first because I haven't had an opportunity to really go here in a long time. So I'm about to give it to you right now. You can pull out whatever you want to pull out, but this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to say to you. As you sit here, I don't care about none of that. I see he wants to pull out his Cowboy stuff, right? I don't care about none of that, right? Because as you sit here and watch this video that people are watching as we watching them with your New York Yankees hat on from Brooklyn, New York, and you got the colossal gall to sit here and tell me that you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, I always do this with y'all who, first of all, I'm that weirdo old school fan that thinks if you root out of market, there's something wrong with you. So you're my best friend. Hopefully he's listening. If he is, he can defend himself. He roots for the New York Mets. He got one right. He roots for the Chicago Bulls on the other side of the country, the Minnesota Vikings on the other side of the country. I got a friend who roots for the Yankees, Cowboys, and Lakers. Come on, man. Like, really? You front running. If you our age in mid to late 40s and you for the Yankees, Cowboys, and Lakers, you front running. You was a 10-year-old who rooted for the teams that was good. That's whack to me.
Okay.
That's whack to me when you
May
got
I
options.
explain my Cowboy fandom?
Because they was good in the 60s
No.
and they was on television.
No.
That's because that's what people your age say.
But here's, I'm gonna tell you what.
All
happened.
right, so
Okay.
I'll shut up.
Remember, I'm a man of a certain age.
I knew
right?
that was coming. I
And
knew it was
when I
coming.
was coming up, I didn't know sports. I didn't know sports in general. Matter of fact, the most I knew about sports was baseball. Baseball was a big thing for kids when I was coming up. Right? It wasn't about basketball or football. Baseball was everything. Right? So when I was introduced to football, it was all about the Dallas Cowboys. They had the cheerleaders, they had their own TV show, right? They had everything going on. They were winning, they were winners, and they had Roger Staubach and Tony Dorsett. The Tony Dorsett is key to my being a Dallas Cowboys fan.
You know you're making my point, right?
But let me finish.
You finish, but you're making my point.
All
Thank
right?
you, though.
So now,
appreciate it.
That introduced me to football. I wasn't watching football at all. Didn't really care. Played in the street, but I didn't follow the game like that. All of the girls in my neighborhood loved Tony Dorsett. I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. If he assaulted me in the street, I wouldn't have knew who he was. So I took it upon myself to find out who Tony Dorsett was and what he did, because all the girls in my neighborhood loved him. And I watched the games when Dallas came on television, and they did the up down one and the shift and the rerun and the out slant and all this stuff, which I thought was amazing, especially when I later found out that was Giants football. Right? So now when I became a young teenager and I began to understand that sports was a substitute for war, right? And you have to support your home in war, right? I was always a Yankees fan anyway, but I became, a fan of the home team in that situation. I have fallen out with my home teams as far as disliking some of the things that they did, but who I root for, I always root for the home team. If the Giants are ever playing the Cowboys, I'm always rooting for the Giants. I don't care, right? But if the Cowboys are playing any other team in the NFL, especially any of them disgusting teams from upstate, yeah, I want them to destroy them.
So what you're saying is, not only do you root for a team out of market, but you root for two teams?
What are you talking about?
You root for the Dallas Cowboys.
No, I root. No.
Only
I root
if they're playing out of market.
I root for the Giants. I want the Giants to win the Lombardi Trophy every year.
But you didn't pull out no Giants.
My daughter bought me that for my birthday.
See, for real, you gonna pull out
my
the
daughter bought me that for my birthday with a blanket because her mother told her that I was a Dallas Cowboys.
So now I can't clown you like I want to because your daughter bought you that.
Yeah, I would have never bought it. I've never worn a Dallas Cowboy jersey. I've worn a Giants jersey.
Okay,
I've never worn.
You're making it hard for me to climb on you right now.
And watch this.
Yeah.
At one point during the 90s,
yeah,
I was overwhelmed by the greatness that was Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
I wanted to root against the team, and I couldn't.
Yeah,
I just couldn't.
That's where people like my best friend picked up Michael Jordan during that period of time. I'll be honest with you, in the interest of full transparency, we're gonna move to something else with sticking with this theme, but move to something else in a minute. But I was someone, when Come Fly With Me came out, and the videos with, when the first sneakers came out in probably 86 or 87, I was with Michael Jordan. But when I lost it for Michael Jordan? I'm gonna tell you, in February of 1988 in Chicago United Center. Was it United Center? I don't think they were playing United Center yet, but the All-Star game was in Chicago in 1988. And what comes with the All-Star
He won
game,
against Zeke.
what comes with the All-Star game,
Neek.
what comes with the All-Star game is the slam dunk contest. And in the slam dunk contest, when Michael Jordan wins against Dominique Wilkins, who was my guy, who is still my guy, I said, you know what? I don't like this number 23 dude because he got home cooking. Because if you watch that dunk contest, and I said it then, and I got receipts. Next month, make 34 years. I said then, if anybody who knew me, I don't know, what am I, 13 years old at the time? I said I will never get over this. I said it then. I will never get over how a two-handed windmill from Dominique Wilkins gets a 45, which led to Michael getting the 50 that wins the dunk contest. And that started my Michael Jordan hate because he kept taking wins.
Do you know why?
From where I wanted wins to be.
You know what the problem was? The problem was what you said. It was home cooking.
Of course it was home cooking.
But more than home cooking.
Of course it was.
When you're watching Dominique dunk directly against Jordan, it's a problem because Dominique doesn't. When Jordan dunks, it looks more undoable, right? When Dominique dunks, indeed, even though it's forceful or whatever, it looks like, yeah, he could do that.
He was the first one, it's hard. I'm not gonna be the old
guy. He had longer arms and he was significantly taller.
He was 2 inches taller. He was 2 inches, 6'8" and 6'6".
But his arms, he just looked like he could have an easy time.
You nailed it with the arms.
Yeah.
And for those younger folks, and we're gonna get off of this because I don't want to belabor this. I don't want to bore the listeners too much with 88 dunk contest. Because trust me, I could stay in this.
Well, we could do this all night.
I could stay in this, but Dominique was the first dunker that people our age saw that had a combination of grace and power. Like what you see from somebody like LeBron, like how he just attacks the rim and players like him. Like the generation, a couple generations, you had somebody like Dominique, but it was graceful along with that power. And it's,
that would be Julius Erving.
Yeah, but Doc didn't have power. Doc wasn't a power.
He did.
Not like
he did.
It didn't look the same as it did.
That's the television.
I think the correct lineage would be Doc to Mike and maybe George Gervin or maybe a David Thompson.
Gervin didn't dunk. He did the finger roll.
Maybe
the power was Doc because Doc, like Jordan, had these hands.
Yeah.
And he just hold the ball,
and the ball
like
disappear.
The windmill is Doc's invention.
You talking about the Michael Cooper joint.
He bring it from here and go windmill.
Yeah.
For real.
Let's have some more fun keeping with some of this sports conversation. And listeners, we're here. We want you to rock with us or continue to tap into here in social media. 804-402-2893 is the number to dial. You want to rock with us, we'll roll with y'all. Daryl says Giants for life. Dallas won't be running up the scoreboard on anyone else. I ain't mad at him. Here's my question. First of all, let me get a shout out here from my brother Damon, who I shouted out a little while ago when I referred to my best friend. That's who I'm referring to. He said, "Yeah, I'm listening. What's good, John? Miss you, Steph. Keep in mind, bro, still a Bulls fan, even though they trashed for years. And Warren Moon was my guy." So I let him explain. He's been a Bulls fan since we was kids. They in first place in the conference now.
Didn't Warren play for Houston?
He did, but he also played for the Minnesota Vikings.
But his highlight was in Houston.
Houston is where most fans would know him from. But Damon became a fan, and that has been his salvo since we was kids. That's consistent. He's always said it. He's been a big fan of Warren Moon since he was a little guy, and that's how he became a Minnesota Vikings fan. So I'm used to it. I'm gonna throw shade every opportunity that I can, but it is, at our age, it kind of is what it is, especially when you've been rocking with somebody for 30 years. They've been singing the same song.
I have not often liked a lot of football teams. I don't say that I ever liked the Vikings. I'm sure they were good at a time. I kind of like the Eagles a little bit from time to time. I never liked Atlanta.
Let's do this then. I got a better question. Who do you hate and why you hate them?
Anything north of Connecticut.
Let's get it. Let's get specific. And that's what we're going to talk about here in this part of the conversation.
If people from Boston can rep you, I hate you.
804-402-2893. Who's the fan base you hate and why do you hate them? And yes, you can have more than one. So go ahead. You talking about Boston?
If Boston reps you, I hate you, right? Atlanta teams, unfortunately, I don't like them either.
Atlanta teams or and a specific team?
No, the Atlanta teams. I don't like the Atlanta teams. They seem to me to be like they play for the ABA.
Yeah, but they don't do anything. They don't win anything.
Yeah, but they the way they represent and present themselves, it's like they're playing in a different league. It's like they okay. It's like when it's like the bands, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you get a HBCU band, right? At the Macy's Day Parade. It's like it's hype, it's all of that, but it's not, and it's like Atlanta teams is more, it's like, if you don't got hot sauce, with you at the game, you're out of place or something. It's just
cousin Selwyn said he agrees with you on the Boston thing.
Huh?
My cousin Selwyn says he agrees with you on the Boston thing.
Anybody from the tri-state hates anything Boston.
Oh, I hate Boston.
So,
I hate Boston.
And listen, it doesn't just stay there. Affiliates and associates. Like I don't like the good Tom Brady's playing in Tampa. To me, he's forever hated because of the rings that he brought to New England.
All right, so let me tell you my fan base that I hate. I absolutely hate, despise Dallas Cowboys fan base. Now, I went to Dallas 2019. I went to that breathtaking stadium building, Jerry World, where we saw the game yesterday, and it is easily by far the greatest physical facility that I've ever been in my life.
That Miami spot was nice, though.
The Miami spot we went to was nice. It wasn't
that. But I'm just saying it was nice. I was like, wow, this is nice.
We went to see the Miami Marlins this summer play the Yankees. That was
lose to the Yankees.
Yeah, well, Yankees won that game. But yeah, here's why I'm gonna get to the point. You know why I hate Dallas Cowboys fans? Because of a text message, not a text message, but a post that I saw on my Facebook page today. And a friend of mine, SS, won't say his name unless he's listening. He wants to call, and I don't want to stir up nothing, but I'll just say SS, right? SS, I've known this brother for over 25 years. Good friend of mine in Jersey City. He's another one of them Jersey City Dallas Cowboys fans, those Northeast Dallas Cowboys fans who I kind of throw shade at, like present company, who has always
according
sung
to
the
the
praises.
stats, the Dallas Cowboys playing the East.
Yeah, right. And today, after that loss yesterday, he had a post on Facebook that said Dallas Cowboys 2023. Like he already repping for next season, and like they just lost. And the thing about the Cowboys fans that get on my nerves is they're so obnoxious about how great they think they are. Every year, this is the year. Every year, how about them Cowboys? Every year, we're America's team, and every year they do nothing. They haven't won. They've won 4 playoff games in the last 25 years. 4. They haven't won a Super Bowl in 26 years. It's like, come on, man. Like, I dig loving your team, but at some point there needs to be some level of humility here because you sound crazy.
I'm going to help you out here. Here's the problem: you don't have what people think is the Dallas Cowboy fan base. Isn't the Dallas Cowboy fan base? The people that you're talking about are, I don't know what to call them, but they're not the Dallas Cowboy fan base. You gotta understand something. Dallas Cowboys is the richest organization in sports, period, bar none. Right? It's not the Dallas Cowboys. It's America's team. It's God's team. It's all of that stuff. It's the Stars and Stripes. It's the Star Spangled Banner. It's the Dallas Cowboys. And those fans have no idea what they're talking about. And they go, how about them Cowboys? And they say, next year is our year. They don't know the roster. They don't know what goes on. They don't know what it takes to win a football game. You got people in Dallas who are Dallas Cowboy fans, who are real fans of the team. And like other teams, like who fall into the category, like our Knicks, like the Knicks, who are, no matter what they do, going to sell out the Garden every year. I don't care if they play in last place. They're going to get TV share, and they're going to sell out the Garden. They're going to be a very rich organization, win or lose no matter what. And their fans will back them to the death. But the difference is the Knicks fans are not national or international. They're focused in New York, and they will go, we suck this year. It'll take us 5 years to build another team to go to the playoffs. I don't know when we're gonna win a championship, because the New York fans are fans. Like, they know the game. Like when you and I were talking, and we was talking about Ewan and Cole, and I was like, oh, when he did his George Gervin impersonation, you called out the name, the day, the date, the play. So, Knick fans are different, but Cowboys fans and Knick fans and Yankees fans, people who hate the Yankees say, well, you want to buy another champ? I don't care if we buy it or not. We got the pennants.
But you know what's crazy? That shows me how little you pay attention to baseball, because the Yankees haven't been one of the highest paid teams. And the last year they won the World Series, they weren't even high. And in 2009, they weren't even the highest.
Right, but I'm talking about what people say.
No, I got you. And and I guess we can talk about the franchise. And now, one thing that you did say that I don't agree with, when you talked about how the Knicks don't have a national traveling audience.
No, they do, but it's not like.
I'll give you a perfect example.
You got Cowboys fans who've never watched the NFL game.
Okay, I'll give you that. But I'll tell you this about Knicks fans, right? There was a stretch in my life where I was going to Atlanta a couple times a year, and at least one of them trips was to go to, at the time, the Phillips Center, to go see the Knicks and the Hawks. And whenever K-Dub and me and Jaleel and Nari would go to them games, we would look around and we would see that there were more New York Knicks fans in that building than there were Atlanta Hawk fans. We take over the building.
That's New York
every single
time.
But
that's New York. New York fans
but listen,
go everywhere.
But listen.
And we are everywhere.
That's not, trust me, I'm in the building. It's not all traveling fans. We talking about
transplants,
We talking about in the building. We talking about people, because we got on the train with them when we left. So we know these people live in ATL and they root for the Knicks. Just Saturday night, 2 days ago, the Knicks played in Atlanta. We won the game, and they were showing on the MSG network broadcast, the New York broadcast. They were showing all of the New York Knicks fans in their building. There's far more blue than there is red. There's a New York Knicks guy at the end, and you can see him mouthing the words, "Get out of here, get out of here." He's talking to the Hawks fans. So I don't necessarily think that those are all traveling fans. Maybe they are, maybe they are not. But I will say this: the Knicks are all over this country, and there are several fan bases that are like that. Dallas Cowboys, Los Angeles Lakers, New York Yankees, New York Knicks, Green Bay Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers, Miami Dolphins, Boston Red Sox, Boston Celtics. There's certain teams that wherever they go, their fan bases are going to travel. But a lot of it, you're going to find that those fan bases are spread out all over the country.
But see, New Yorkers are like, go everywhere, and they move everywhere. I don't know how many of the 50 states I've been to, but I know it's more than half. And every place I've gone, I've met somebody who was from Brooklyn.
Of course you
right?
did.
So it just happens.
Of course you did.
It just happens. So
of course
New York is like, no matter where you go, you're gonna have a decent amount of people who were from New York who moved to a place and they brought their fandom with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, today's game is just so different now. It's all about the internet likes and memes and stuff like that. So we can't even really get into it the way we would get into it. You know what I mean? The way people do fan stuff now, like it I don't even know what to say about it. People, and I blame some of the players for that too, because they all nicey nice with each other and stuff too.
I hate that. When we would watch and see younger folks today would scoff at the idea of Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson legit going to half court and kissing each other before the games.
But that was that's just because they knew they planned on drawing blood in the game.
Well, they usually did.
Right. They did
did
that for the reason of knowing that when we play this game, I'm trying to hurt you.
But the world is smaller now, and they share agents. You know, you don't have to be in the largest markets to be the biggest star. You know, LeBron James became a star in Cleveland. Even before he went to Miami, he was a star in Cleveland. You know, whereas 20 years ago or 30 years ago, you know, you would have expected him to be in, you know, one of the larger markets and become a star. So it's different now, you know, and these kids come up together, you know, playing in rec leagues and in preteen leagues and high school leagues and all these different leagues. You know, LeBron, you know, being from where he was from, and Carmelo being from where he was from, and Chris Paul being from where he was from, were all friends before they even got to the league, which is a difference that you see now. So I suppose it's a little more challenging to have the kind of natural hatred. Because see, as a fan of the team, I've been a fan of the Knicks pre-Patrick Ewing. You know, I remember when he got drafted, and I'm sure you remember that as well. I've been a Giants fan, a Knicks fan, and Yankees fan all since the early 80s. And so I've seen kind of, you know, the trends. And I'll be honest with you, I don't care too much now for this camaraderie that they have.
Well,
And I get it.
Look, Oak and Jordan was the best of friends. But when Jordan came to that hole, he was trying to take his head off.
Yeah, I think that's the
and
difference.
if anybody else went for Jordan after the game, Oak would have beat him to death.
Let me get a couple. let me get some comments in here in social media. All right, so let's start with let's see. Let's start with John Jr. John Jr. says Knicks fans are delusional, and I'm from New York. Marbury further cemented my hate with that with his $5 shoes. Okay, John Jr. continues. Nets got to win something for me to give a damn. I'll rep them though, because that's the real home base. John knows. Anybody that wants to,
you're not from Jersey, John.
Anybody that wants to throw shade at the Knicks by talking about Marbury's $5 shoes, I'm not going to even go there with you.
That's somebody who doesn't know the game.
Yeah, I'm not going.
Stephon Marbury.
He is a goat. He's GOAT level.
You GOAT level.
He's GOAT level.
I'm mad at him, and I'm mad at him because he should have stayed his ass in Minnesota, and him and Kevin Garnett would have dominated the league.
I can't disagree with that. I cannot disagree with that. But I can't throw shade at $5 sneakers when Jordans cost 150 and the kids killing each other for them.
Yeah, that's why he did it.
I can't.
He bought everybody on his team. He sent it to the tailor, bought everybody on his team 2 suits. Because the league had determined if you had to come to the game, you had to wear a suit. Yeah. And he bought all of his teammates suits.
Yep. As a Knick. Yep. As a Knick. And his comment about the Nets having to win something. Yeah. Nets started in New York, went to New Jersey, and now they're in Brooklyn. For those people, why aren't you a New Jersey Nets fan? They started
in Philly, yes?
They started in New York. They were the New York Nets, and then they moved to New Jersey. And now, if you know history prior to them being the New York Nets that I'm not familiar with, then we
wasn't
talk
they
about
that. They wasn't the Philly Nets?
I don't have any knowledge.
ABA, that wasn't Philly?
When they were the ABA, they were the New York Nets because Doc played for them.
Okay.
And then Doc actually ended up in Philly once the leagues got purged because there were 4 teams that came from the ABA. That
okay, so they say with the New York Nets.
The New York Nets, who became the New Jersey Nets. You had the Denver Nuggets. You had the San Antonio Spurs. And you had the Indiana Pacers. Those 4 teams were ABA teams that ended up becoming a part of the NBA. I think it was.
Where the hell did the Supersonics come from?
They may have been an ABA team. I'm not sure.
I
They may have been. That's a good question.
That's the Timberwolves, y'all. If you want.
That's the
Oakland,
OKC.
OKC. What are they?
Oklahoma City Thunder.
The Thunder. That's the Thunder.
They used to be the
Supersonic. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, because. What's the dude for Brooklyn that's out now that can't seem to stay on the court because he stays hurt? That's tall with the funny haircut. Kevin Durant.
Okay.
He got drafted by Seattle, and then the team moved from Seattle to OKC.
Right.
And then he signed with Golden State. So anyway, ain't no how step Marcus J live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio. So we had a little fun with the teams we hate. And the fan bases. I do have a couple of other fan bases that I want to throw some shade at. It's hard to throw shade at the Lakers, but I throw shade at the Lakers for the same reason I throw shade at the Cowboys. Their fan bases are obnoxious. Now, if you're a West Coast Lakers fan, I got less heat with you. But, you know, them Jersey City Lakers fans that want to throw shade at my Knicks, It's like, yeah, your team's on the other side of
Look,
the country.
I hate the Lakers,
I'm not doing it with you.
but I hate the Lakers the same way I hate Boston. I hate them because they were so damn good
Yeah,
for so long.
and Magic, until LeBron, Magic was the guy who I was like, that's the greatest player I ever seen. You're expected to say Michael Jordan. I was never choosing Michael Jordan in these arguments just because Magic was the easier, target to take. Now, he didn't have the raw talent, the raw physical
Eyeball
talent.
test, though.
He had a raw physical talent that MJ had, but like you said, the eyeball test. So who's taking anybody over Magic in 1991?
When we listen, people always say pick your starting 5 or pick your 10, and when I give out mine and Michael Jordan isn't on it, people look at me like I'm crazy. How you not gonna pick Michael Jordan?
I do look at you. Like
I said
crazy.
because I'm not because he's only 6'6", and I got a guy 6'9", 6'10" who could play his position. I'm not gonna pick him.
No, I can dig that. I think that's a flawed
Look,
argument.
you can't coach size.
So who's the shortest player on your team?
Magic Johnson at 6'9".
That's the shortest guy on your team?
Mm-hmm.
Your team's gonna lose.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
My team's gonna win every game.
Your team gonna get run off the court,
size.
man. Just size isn't always what matters, man.
Well, and basketball, it is.
Yeah, that's the misconception.
In basketball,
ask Manute Bol and Sean
I
Bradley.
ain't picking Manute Bol or Sean Bradley,
right? or George Murson.
Listen. If here's the deal, right? When you pick the team, if you pick,
who's your 5?
Okay,
since we there.
We there. Okay, here we go.
Because we all over the place tonight.
And remember what I'm picking. I'm picking
size.
I'm picking the guy at his peak.
Fair enough.
Right? Not injured later. This is at his peak performance, right? I got Magic at 1, right? I got Bird at 2, right? I got Bird at the 2.
You got
remember
Bird
peak.
You got a
remember
Bird
peak players.
So you got a guy who can't dribble playing the 2. Okay, I got you.
Right? Got Bird at 2. I got
I'll help you out.
No. I got what's my guy's name? LeBron. I got LeBron at 3.
Okay.
I got Olajuwon at the 4.
Okay.
And I got Shaq at the center.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I don't like your team.
You ain't got to like. You can't put 5 players that's gonna beat them.
Yeah, I can actually. Yeah,
I dare you.
So
5 players. There's not 5 players alive that are beating them.
Yeah.
The best you can walk out with is a tie.
Steph Curry's gonna shoot the lights out.
Chef Curry's gonna get his shot blocked.
No, because he gonna get to the.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. What?
Hold
on. What rules are we playing by? Can we hand check? Or are we playing sissy ball or are we playing basketball?
The rules are the rules, man.
Nah, we playing.
The rules are the rules.
If you're
choosing players across generations, then asking about the rules is kind of silly.
To me, basketball is not basketball when you can pick up your dribble and put it back down and not get called for it. Basketball ain't basketball if you can't hand check the player.
Yeah.
And basketball ain't. I mean, there's just. Come on, man.
I mean, a lot of rules that are different, but here's the 5, and then we'll move on because we jumping around.
We playing
today.
in the rucker.
All right, so I got Steph Curry, I got Michael Jordan, I got LeBron James, I got Kobe Bryant, and I got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and my 5 is beating your 5.
Your 5 is not beating my 5,
yeah.
And I love Kareem, and I think all things considered,
that's the
Kareem.
GOAT. That's the real GOAT.
Kareem might be the real GOAT.
He is the real
right?
GOAT. Might be. He is the real GOAT.
But again, we had a conversation earlier, and here's the difference with Kareem and Shaq. Shaq is going to give me 20 boards in the game that I'm playing.
And Kareem's not?
Kareem's not going to get the boards unless the ball bounces out back. If he's playing Shaq, Shaq is pushing him far out the middle.
Ain't nobody ever scored
Shaq had
more
50
points.
pounds on him easy.
Ain't nobody ever scored more points in the history of the league than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
yeah,
who played against your Olajuwon and Wilt.
Yeah, but you know what he did?
He played against Wilt.
But he was skyhooking the ball, and when his hand
later in his career,
but his hand was at the 3-point line. He should have got 3 for that.
yeah. You know, have Steph Marcus J live from New Day Legacy Radio. All right. So for those folks who are rocking with us and waiting for us to move on to more, shall we say, political fare, You may have the wrong night because we're having some fun tonight. I do have one more sports question for you, John, and then we will move on to other stuff. Okay. I asked you this question earlier today when we were doing two cubes, and I asked it to you, and I told you I did not want you to answer at the time, but I'm gonna ask you now on the air. No qualifications. Just give me your name and the why with your name. You qualify however you want to qualify it. But I want to know who is the GOAT, the greatest of all time quarterback, National Football League, with every single quarterback on the table. You get to pick your guy for your reasons. Who is he?
If I'm going to build a all-time football team and I'm going to pick a quarterback, the first pick I pick, I think I'm picking Terry Bradshaw. I think I'm picking Terry
it's
Bradshaw.
so hard to debate this dude, yo, because he come out of nowhere with some stuff. Okay, I'll bite. Why Terry Bradshaw? Like, you do realize why I'm laughing at you right now,
Yeah,
right? Okay, cool. All right, cool. So it's not weird. Come on, man. You get laughed at for that. Now you're gonna explain it, and you were probably gonna make sense, but you ain't gonna make enough sense for this to work for me. So, but I'm gonna listen. What you got? Terry Bradshaw.
Heat on the ball, accuracy, durability, and size, and football IQ.
Okay.
Right. I don't need him to win the game, but he won't lose the game.
Okay. But you do realize there are a lot of great quarterbacks that could do what he did, right?
Yeah, but they won't be. They're not as durable. They don't have the size.
I can think of at least one.
Who?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
There has never
Tom
been
Brady's a sissy. Tom Brady
never been a greater quarterback in this league.
Here's the problem with Tom Brady.
It just hasn't.
Here's the problem with Tom Brady. Right. When I put my D together, Tom Brady's going on his ass. Tom Brady was never rattled and put on his ass. He was always protected, not only by his team, but by the league. He was a darling. He was Jordanized at a certain level. Right? Listen,
you still got to go out there and throw the football.
You still got to go out there and throw it. Listen.
And maybe not the open guy.
Listen, check this out. Here's the thing, right? And this is what I tell people all the time, right? And younger people, y'all are not going to get this, but I'm going to try to explain it to you. Most of the people who you like in sports, if they were asked to play at the time when people were playing that I'm talking about, they would not have lasted a season.
Yeah, we're
right?
not gonna do the.
So
the old fogey thing
no,
doesn't work.
No, it's not the old fogey thing.
It is the old fogey thing.
No, listen, it's not. It's
we
physical.
walk to school in the snow.
No, it's physical.
Uphill,
no,
with no shoes.
It's physical.
That's how you sound.
I heard somebody say something. No, I heard somebody say something about. I saw a running back top 10 list or whatever, and Jim Brown was like 4. The other 3 behind him, in front of him, was wonderful. I forget, but I think it was Sweetness and a few others. But first, you got to understand something. Jim Brown was different. Jim Brown not only is the best running back of all time, he might be the greatest football player. He's arguable that. Jim Brown was different, right? Exceptional, different. And people can't understand that because they're basing it on what people do today. You can't base what Jim Brown did in the 60s against what people do today, because it was different.
Well, here's where that argument collapses.
If you had some way, right, to take Jim Brown as he was when he played and transport that physical being into this league, he is unstoppable.
Yeah, but he didn't play against nobody that was nowhere close to Lawrence Taylor and others. So yeah, Jim Brown was great for his time, and so was Babe Ruth, who didn't play against black players. So you get to be great in your era, and I can dig it. But
I'm talking about the physical.
You get to be great in your era.
It's not about George Mikan. It's physical.
Just like George Mikan was great for his era.
It's physical demand. It's physical demand and position.
Who did as great as Jim Brown was, and I'm not shading him because he is one of the greatest of all time. But who did he play that presented the same kind of defensive challenge that some of the players who some other folks would want to say, like maybe Emmett, maybe Barry, maybe LaDainian, maybe Marcus.
I'm gonna give it to you.
You know,
you ready? He played against guys whose names I don't know because they had regular jobs during the off season.
Exactly.
And when
exactly.
when they came into play, they came in with casts, plastic casts on their arms, right? Throwing uppercuts to the jaw, stepping on you with steel cleats while you were down, kicking you.
They do that now, though.
No, they don't. The cleats are plastic,
Well, I mean, yeah,
and they don't wear
but
plaster on their arms.
I guess the point I'm getting at is they find their ways to get their shots in.
Yeah, but they find a way to get their shots in. It was shots every play, automatic, and no whistle and no flag.
You're going a long way to make your point on
My
Jim
point
Brown,
is being able to do.
You going to do all that just
listen,
to celebrate Jim Brown?
No, I'm not doing it just to celebrate Jim Brown. I'm trying to explain something to people. You can't go. This is the problem with the GOAT thing. Like you said, you great in your era. So you say GOAT, but it's a different game, right? It's a different game. There are differences. Now, like you said, there would be challenges that Jim Brown would face that he never saw before, right? In this league of football. Absolutely. But what I'm saying to you is with the challenges, with the physical, and this goes back to why I picked Terry Bradshaw, with the physical ability, with this person's build and what they were able to do under the conditions that they were able to do it in, right? It makes the difference to me.
They don't have Steppin with Marcus J live from New Dan Legacy and that radio. I'm gonna make one more comment, but before I make this one comment, our special listener is checking us out. She checks us out at this time every single week, so it's only two of us. So we're gonna still give her her love and her salutations. John and I are gonna look at the camera and we're gonna say,
"Good morning, Sue."
Let's see. John Jr. is giving us the business. He says John's team is trash. Kobe, Amari, Iverson, Penny High School, Penny Hardaway, and LeBron. Yeah, you said Amari and Penny. You have no credibility in this discussion. You said Amari and Penny.
You can get any one of them out of there and put in Tracy McGrady if you want to talk about it.
Two guys who ain't never seen nor will they ever see the Hall of Fame. And you got him in gold.
How about Tracy McGrady, Grant Hill?
Come on, man.
There's some guys at their peaks who was incredible.
Come on, man. I mean, I love you, bro, but come on, man. And you know how Steppin Marcus J live from New Dan Legacy and that radio. All right, John. I think we have taken enough liberties with the sports talk.
Oh yeah.
You want to get to more?
Yeah, unless we're gonna start doing enough, we bring back the green room.
Yeah, right. You want to bring up some more contemporary fare? You ready to do that?
let's deal with this.
Well, we got that.
Let's deal with Goldberg trying to choke slam this lady cop.
Yeah. So check it. What John's talking about. All right. So here's where we're getting ready to go, y'all. There was a story that came out about this cop who put his hands on a colleague. We're going to talk about that. We're going to play this clip first, a little over a minute, and then we're going to talk about it. Take a listen, y'all.
Florida police officers under investigation after appearing to choke a fellow officer. Look at this. It's body cam footage showing the officer yelling at a handcuffed suspect and pulling his can of pepper spray. That's when a female officer grabs him, trying to de-escalate the situation, according to authorities. You can see the male officer turn around and place his hands on her throat. Listen to what a law enforcement expert said about this incident.
We see a female police officer that's finally doing the right thing, the thing we've been trying to retrain law enforcement throughout the country to do, and that is intervene when you see excessive use of force. So she does the right thing. And I think the sergeant's response to that is even more, if not just as appalling as his reaction to the handcuffed prisoner.
The Sunrise Police Chief says that the officer who put his hand on the other officer's throat has been relieved of supervisory responsibilities. Meanwhile, an internal investigation is now underway into this incident.
All right, John, you up first, bro. He was a supervisor.
So here we go. And remember, I'm a new man. I've changed my thing this year. And I'll say this, I'll keep it real simple. The fact that we are going to have this discussion is the problem. This is not a talk we should have. That individual that I observed on that tape is experiencing what's known as roid rage, right? His ability to do his job or any other kind of job has been impaired by his use of steroids or some other kind of drug that causes that type of rage. Now, I don't know specifically if he's a card carrying racist or member of the KKK, but I think part of the energy that he was using came from the fact that they were handling a black man. When he turned around, although the officer was a black woman, I don't even know if that played as much a part of his reaction was the fact that anyone would dare challenge him about anything. And he just went off he grabbed her by the throat, but the slow motion doesn't do it justice because he quickly moved his hand to her collar. Like he knew he was going to grab her throat and he kind of really didn't. But the fact that he was being that aggressive lets you know that that's not a person who needs to be a law enforcement officer, right? But unfortunately, those are the people who are hired for the job. Those are the people who go after the job, the people who were marginalized and abused as children and picked on, and they want some get back. So they roid up, they go in the weight room, right? They get a little bulky, they get the job, they get the gun, and now anybody who reminds them even slightly of somebody who teased them as a kid or whatever, and they go out there and try to exact revenge, which is what it is. Aside from that, in most situations, you have a police department that targets minority areas because that is where they're going to find the most crime. And not that minority areas commit more crime than other areas. It's just that it's easier to depict there because it's like fishing in a pond, right? You put 100, 200 fish in a pond, you're going to catch some fish. So they design the city so that they put all of these people in an area that's too small to contain them, which causes them to do things like everybody else does, but it's just magnified in this small area. And then they send the police department, go catch the fish, because that justifies the budget of the police department in the area. So the more people they catch and the more they go into the court, the higher their budget becomes next year. The more money they get from the state, the more money they get from the federal government, the more tanks they get to buy. And this is why nobody looks into truly reforming policing or changing the police department or even changing the criminal justice system, because it's a multi-billion-dollar organization that works for people. And what their product is black folk, and no one cares, so it doesn't make a difference. And black people, for the most part, don't care either, because at the end of the day, you get some people who feel like they're woke and like they're conscious and they think about, but the intricacies of what happens in the African American community in America usually are longer. The list is longer than what most people, the average person, can focus on. And I'm not trying to insult anyone, but it's very complex and deliberate and intricate. And there's so many moving parts. It'd be hard for a team of people to keep up with it. But understanding the fact that when you watch 20 people in your neighborhood get arrested and you're sitting on the sidelines and you don't have a personal relationship with them, what you know is that's 20 less people for you to compete with when you're trying to get a job or a place to stay or whatever. When people lose, you go, who got that apartment? You want to move your stuff in there and give the super $50 and just take it over and things of that nature. So just the idea of trying to survive in a place that wasn't designed for you to survive pits you against people who you don't have to be pitted against in situations. And all of this, again, is about making money. It's not about not liking black people. It's not about Black Lives Matter. It's not even about, it's about racism, because racism is based on finance. So that's what it is.
You started part of your part here talking about how why are we talking about this? And as I look at this, I think the answer is in the culture. You know, we see this white dude, regardless of the uniform, turn around and respond to a black woman the way he did. That's a matter of how he feels about her as a person. It had nothing to do with their uniform. Because if it did, he would have showed some sort of restraint, the way they normally do for their brothers and sisters in blue.
That man had no restraint left in him. Well, he was already enraged.
No, I got you. I got you on that. But
I think if a white male cop would have pulled him by his belt and he turned around and saw him, he would have did the same thing at that moment.
So
He
this
was
ain't a
not
race
in
thing
his
for
right
you.
mind. It's a race thing
Well, it's
because
just one or
it's
the
a
other
race
then.
thing. I'm gonna tell you why it's a race thing. It's a race thing because it was a black suspect. It's a race thing because I'm gonna champion Steph here. Here goes a black woman again, going out of her way, putting herself in harm's way to try to help save a black man, to be unappreciated and not thought, because that's what happened at the end of the day. This black woman saw a black man defenseless and about to be abused, and she could not even help herself but to try to help him by pulling this white man who was 3 times her size off of him physically. She put herself in, she was prepared to take his abuse.
I guess we look at whose perspective we want to speak from, his or hers. We can come back to that. Hidden social media, one of my favorite people in the history of my life, my cousin Renee Day is checking us out. She's saying first time seeing this and or hearing about this, but I feel like he was that aggressive because he has some issues with women. There's something to be said for that being a potential thing. Like, I hear you when you say that you think that he may have responded aggressively to even another white man. I think when we see a case like this, we have to deal with what we see. And what we see is a black woman, like the dude said in the clip, finally taking a stand in blue, trying to make sure that your brethren in blue conducts themselves in a proper manner. Obviously, he's not doing that with the way he was treating the suspect. And so she tried to be like, yo, chill. And she was greeted with hands around her neck.
Okay.
And I have a hard time believing that had that been any other demographic other than a black woman, even a white woman, I don't think would have gotten that. And I certainly don't think another man, black or white, would have gotten that. And I was in this discussion with some folks recently, just on Saturday afternoon. And I shout them out because I got love for Brewers Cafe. I'm at Brewers Cafe on Saturday afternoon, and there was a brother in there, and we were having a cipher. We were talking about who is the most disrespected demographic in our country, and I don't think
Black
there's
women,
any
hands
question.
down.
There's no question that it's the black woman. At least not to me, and that's just the way I see it. And obviously, you agree, and Steph would as well if she was here. And so that leads me back to this case and back to this video and how I know what I know. Now, I don't know what I know in this situation, but I know what I know. And I would have a hard time believing that this man, even if he was enraged, is doing that to any other demographic. Do you think he's doing that to another man? You think he's putting his hands around the neck of another man?
Let me answer that, because here's the thing. When I remember I was speaking, I said I cannot say with any degree of certainty whether or not he's a card-carrying racist or member of the KKK. With that said, right, here's what I want to address. I want to be able to address what we can prove. I cannot prove what he would have done to a white man. I cannot prove. I don't even want to talk. There's certain times where we muddy the water with our personal feeling, right? Because I don't want to get into my personal feeling. I know what I saw. I saw a man out of control, and that man has no place in law enforcement. He should not be given a gun, and he should not be entrusted with upholding the law in the area that he lives in. That's just it. Everything else, we getting into muddy water. We getting into likes and dislikes and prejudices and all that. And these things exist. We're all prejudiced. I don't like a lot of things, right? We talked about sports teams, and some of the things I said, although in jest about these other sports franchises, you really can't. I really don't feel that way about them people. But this is the expression we use as fans. It's hyper, right? There's nothing that I can do to go into that man's head and figure out what he's thinking. But what I know is I saw him before he pulled her away. I saw him as she pulled him away, and I saw him after. He was not in control of himself at any point in time during that situation. So to say that he made a conscious decision to do that to her because it was a black woman, I can't. It might be true, but I can't win anything with that argument.
Well, let me ask you this then: seeing what you saw, and knowing what you know, what should be his penalty for doing that?
Oh, one, he should have, first of all, they removed him from supervisory. No, he should have had his gun taken away, his badge taken away. He should have been charged with felony assault of a police officer. The same, okay, if let's say that that was my brother, they was putting in the car, and I ran up on him to try to give him some change to make phone calls when he got to the thing. And she grabbed me, right? And if I turned around and touched her in any kind of way, any kind of physical contact with her, I would be facing felony assault of a police officer. Here's the problem. Law enforcement, criminal justice system. You cannot have people enforce laws that they are not responsible to uphold. Right? You can't have police officers pulling people over for traffic infractions after they've done several traffic infractions. Right? You can't have people writing tickets on cars when they're double parked facing the wrong way on a one-way street, when not in an emergency, turning on their lights to get to the sandwich shop. Right? And all these other kind of things. Allowing them to abuse each other in this case and get away with it, that is felony assault on a police officer. Anything less than that we're kidding now. Listen, and this is why the conversation is a joke, because we're kidding ourselves. As a nation, we are a bunch of crazy people. This is not something to even talk about. We saw what we saw.
Yeah.
In any kind of way anyone would try to spin it to try to make it other than what it is, it's insanity.
You know,
and we are all, it's like what they say. What is the realm? The realm is the 1,000 swords that makes Agon's throne.
Yeah.
It's the lie we keep telling ourselves long enough that we forget it's a lie.
You know what frustrates me? And this story is just an example of it. But I think we've gotten to a point in America, certainly in our lifetimes, and probably if you ask our elders, they would say in theirs, that we've gotten so comfortable looking at certain situations and acting like we didn't see what we saw and just kind of brushing it off and not using common sense or the same consequences for everybody that we would normally give in the same situation. And this is an example of it. When I look at what we saw, John nailed it. Like, whatever charge that you would give to a civilian who did what this officer did with regards to putting his hands around the neck of a colleague, if you would have charged me or John or any one of you, viewers and listeners, as civilians, whatever that charge is, that should be the exact same charge, period. And it's not like we're not looking at it on the body cam, like we see it. And it shouldn't take that. What it should take is the honest word of those witnesses and other officers that were there who spoke to that when they were asked by the proper authorities. But see, we live in a country now who we can watch what happened on January 6th last year and other dates and other crazy things that have happened the time that we spent under the leadership of Donald Trump. And we can sit and act like these things aren't what they are. Like, this is the definition of gaslighting. Like, that's what gaslighting means. It means we see you seeing what's going on. Like, we know that you know what's going on, but we're going to act like it's not what you're seeing. And even if we have to acknowledge what you saw, we're going to treat it like it wasn't that bad. So it's not that bad that a cop choked another cop. It's not that bad that a man choked a woman. Let's keep it funky. It's not that bad that all of these people, on the word of Donald Trump, who said he would be there with them, stormed the Capitol with his flags and American flags, looking and screaming to kill elected officials. But we still have some who are doing what they have to do to keep from all the information being laid public so that we can all understand what went on there. Like, we live in a time where we can see this stuff happening. And it almost reminds me of the Eddie Murphy skit in Raw from 1987. Wasn't me. Wasn't me. Hey,
look at me.
Wasn't me. And you know what America is saying? Maybe it wasn't you. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what's happening here. You know, and it's frustrating for those of us with common sense.
If you're gonna let a physical assault of an officer come in between what we have, then something's really wrong here.
I mean, you kind of need to understand the Eddie Murphy skit to get it, but I understand the Eddie Murphy skit and I get it. Like for real, that's what America's doing. Like, we saw that.
You're gonna let my knee for 10 minutes on a man's neck, killing him, come between what we got going on in this country? There's something really wrong.
Something really wrong with you, America. You know what I mean? It's crazy too, because they showing you. Like, here's the deal, John. We seen the clip. We seen the video. I don't need no context before that man got put in the back of the police car. All I needed to see was what happened right when it started.
All right.
Right when the
I
video
put my hand
started,
on her throat. I choked her. All right, I choked her. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about choke. That's right. I choked her. I massaged your neck.
I mean, come on, man. What do we talk about here? We seen the video. We know what happened, but now we got to investigate. What the fuck are we investigating? For real.
Why are we having the conversation? The other cops are supposed to take his gun and put him in cuffs there. There's another video. It's a few months old. This one cop is walking a suspect to the car, and this other cop reached out and punched him. The other cop pulled the guy and shoved him and told the other cop, arrest that bum, and arrested him on the spot. That's what's supposed to happen to this guy.
That's where he's supposed to go down. Period. Or as John likes to say, hard stop.
Yeah, full stop.
Full stop.
Anyway,
Yeah. It's like, what are we talking about here? Like, it has gotten to the civilian. This should have been dealt with before it got to civilian. Like, all of this, we need to investigate.
This is not a topic of discussion. And what I always want to get back to is, let's have the real conversation. Nobody wants to have the real conversation. The real conversation is, this country is a racist place. It was built on racism. It was built on lies. It was built on rape. It was built on murder. There's nothing good. You can't, everybody keeps trying to say, well, that was a long time ago. But everything that exists now is built on the blood and bones of Black people.
Watch this. The new governor of Virginia, sworn in this weekend, Governor Glenn Youngkin, signed 11 executive orders. One of them is that critical race theory cannot be taught in schools. Now, here's the thing, right? Critical race theory to me is a fancy term.
It was never taught in schools. It's a college course.
It's a fancy term that's applied to history. It's history. What the fuck is critical race theory? There's no such thing. Tell the truth about what happened. White people treated us like shit since they dragged us out of our own country and brought us here and made us work for them, for their benefit, to build this country. And when they were forced to give us freedom, they still fucked with us for another 100 years. And 50 years after that, we're having this conversation.
I got another
narrative. That's the fact. That's your critical race theory.
I got another narrative for you.
But hold on.
They came to this country and found us here and signed treaties and lied to us about it.
But the thing is, we see it. We know it. Everybody knows it. They know it. So going back to the whole gaslighting conversation, there is no question as to the history that I grew up with, the history that you grew up with, most of which had to be taught to us by our elders because they would continuously lie.
But here goes my problem with that. That history is bad enough, right? And that's his story, exactly what it is. But most of that crap is lies. The truth of that is even much worse.
Yeah, well,
it's much. The original Atlantic slave trade went the other way.
Well,
Columbus enslaved the black people he found in the Caribbean and sent them back to Europe as slaves. This is how they got the idea to go to Africa and get more black people, because they found black people in the Caribbean and in South America, and they brought them over here to work there. Very few Africans ever made it to the shores of America. They found what they call the 5 civilized tribes here of all black people, and signed treaties with them. And if you go, they have books in the archives of the Congress that will show the people that they found here, where they describe them. These people look like Ethiopians. Now they look like whatever the tribe was. These people look like black with their dark hair, with their dark skin, and all of these descriptions, even drawings of the people they found. Oh, in this town, this city had over 2,000 homes built with stone. All of this old loincloth, bow and arrow crap that they try to sell you is a lie. So they can't even lie about the lie right. So if we start going into the real history, they don't want to go. They don't want to have the real conversation that Thomas Jefferson made Adolf Hitler look like Saint Teresa. He raped his own children to have more children and enslave them. He's a 47-year-old man raping a 13-year-old girl, and I don't care what time it was. I think he started raping her when she was 11.
It's never going to be okay. It's never going to be okay.
But we can't have R. Kelly High School, but we got Thomas Jefferson High School.
And you know what else we can't have? We can't have the conversation because you got brand new governors that sign executive orders that eliminate critical race theory when there's no such thing as critical race theory.
He did that to gaslight his base.
That's
because they never taught it in school.
I got you. Let me finish. Let me finish. That is the reality. The reality is history is what history is. How I can grow up knowing the history that I'm taught and that I know, but somehow it's not okay for your children. Somehow it's somewhat detrimental for your child to know the history of what your ancestors have done in this country to our people and everybody's people. That's the problem. See, I'm not one of those people who walks around in 2022 that wants to have hatred for all white people. I know there's some folks that are like that. I'm not one of them people. I am, however, one of those people that will call you to task for not paying attention to obvious and what we can discuss as documented history and how some people were treated and how that treatment was perpetuated by other people. And when I see on the first day of his leadership in this state, the governor says no to critical race theory, which to me is bullshit. I don't care about no critical race theory. I don't care about the terminology and none of that shit. I know that it riles up white folk who don't want to talk real history. So I got to deal with it on that level. But the reality is, wasn't nobody teaching this to elementary and high school kids. Like you said earlier, this was college kids. So I don't want to teach the history of what actually happened when we know a few years ago, all the history books come out of Texas. And you got a black woman who was looking at the history books who pointed out imperfections and got the books changed because it was imperfections. So something as small as that can be a big deal when you're looking at roving facts. This shouldn't be roving facts. This shouldn't be, we shouldn't teach
what they call it? Alternative
facts or fake news or whatever these new terms that have been coined since, we had this last guy, I do the best I can to avoid doing that. It'd be real easy for me to call them names, all that kind of stuff. For me, that will minimize the credibility of the speaker when you lead with insults. You ain't got to lead with insults with Donald Trump. All you got to do is keep it funky and tell the truth.
You know what I thought of once? And this would be my last thing about Donald Trump ever. Do you realize it will?
No,
it will.
Okay.
On the show.
No,
let me tell you something.
Don't say that because it won't be, but okay.
Donald Trump would be akin to Don King. And the sad thing is, Don King's a smarter person and probably would have made a better president. But can you imagine Don King running for president?
Couldn't imagine Donald Trump running for president.
Oh no, he's a white. He had the first three qualifications down pat. He was white, he was a man, and he was over 6 feet tall.
Guess I'll never be president, huh?
That's how I go, because certain height exudes certain authority, and that's how they hire people in management skills. And he had a full head of hair. That doesn't do you bad either.
True.
So all of these things. But you remember on the show a little while back, I said I would take anybody to go back in history and find something positive and productive that white people have contributed to society. And I still haven't gotten a call, and nobody can find that. And that's not that I hate white people, because racism isn't white people's fault, right? White people are suffering from racism. Racism isn't against them, but they are suffering from racism because they're being used and abused to enforce racism, and they get the benefit that they think they receive from it doesn't exist. White people in America, most of your black neighbors do better than you. Most of y'all, right? But y'all think because you're white, you got it better off. And that's the lie that you're told. And you think that the Mexicans are taking your job when the people from Mexico ain't even coming here. It's people from South America coming through Mexico. And they're not taking your jobs, because the jobs they would do, you're not going to get on a bicycle and ride on the Cross Bronx Expressway in the rain to deliver a sandwich. You're not going to do it. But the guy from Ecuador will do it for tips only. You're not going to do it. So they're not taking your jobs. So stop that. And black people are not raping your women. It's not happening. Right? You need to understand what the situation is. You're being manipulated so that you don't realize you're being stolen from. Your money's being taken from you. 1% controls 90% of the world's resources, and you're not part of it. You got more in common with your black neighbor down the street than you do with any elected official anywhere in the world.
But the whiteness is the currency. The whiteness is the currency, and here lies the gaslighting. This is the essence of what race is all about. Because everything that you just said in that last piece, you nailed it. You nailed it. Because you're not vying for the same jobs. I always thought that argument, they're sending jobs away. It's amazing the things that we have just in this room right here that was not made in America. And what's with the export to the point where everything, pull over in the shirt and look into the tag of my shirt, this Virginia Union University alumni hat. If I pull out the tag on it, I'm sure, and I can't see because I just can't see, but you look at stuff, nothing's made here. But the people that come here taking the jobs,
what's made here?
How about
prisons?
Prisons are made here.
That's what we make. We make prisons well, and we fill them up better than anybody else.
Renee Day says she disagrees that height does not suggest authority, but it can impose fear. I don't. I disagree with
Actually,
your disagreement.
human resources expert will tell you.
There's documented truth to it, and it's coming from a guy who stands 5'4" tall with 2 pairs of socks on. It's just
height,
what it is.
Height and hair.
What's funny? We were having this conversation. We jumping. This is a conversation today, John. We jumping all around today, so we might get back into this. We might not. But Renee brings up a conversation and mentioned how I was at Brewers the other day in a cipher with a brother and some sisters. Right. One of the things that came up was in relationships how there's a stereotype that many folks don't like to acknowledge, but it's some real stuff. And the stereotype was men prefer younger women, and women can get in their feelings about that all they want, but it's a reality that men. Now, hold on, let me finish this before you stop me. You like to stop me. Let me finish this. Men prefer younger women. Women prefer taller men. And the sooner we understand and acknowledge that, the better we'll get along. This was the point that the person who was making that point was making. And so tonight's the night, y'all. We jumping all over the place. So just bear with us. If you have comments on anything that we talked about, by all means, put your comment in. And then we'll go backwards or call in. That's even better at 804-402-2893. But men prefer younger women. Women prefer taller men. And it was a whole thing because there were people in there that were trying to dispute that. And there were people in there that were trying to make it so that it wasn't a stereotype that comes from fact. But here I am, a short man who has experienced that discrimination. Now, it don't move me to a point where I care. I don't, because I'm out of the market anyway. But I know what that means. I know what that looks like. And I'm also a man who, as I age, and I said this to him, as I age, I've learned to appreciate women my age at 47. Absolutely, there's beauty and value there, but I get the 23-year-old girl. Notice I said girl, so there's probably a subconscious thing going on there. It is probably a subconscious thing going on there because
no disrespect intended,
no disrespect intended at all. But I did say girl, I didn't mean to, so it might be some subconscious stuff. But anyway, the point being that was the conversation, and for some reason, instead of acknowledging what I would tend to agree to, they're not facts because it's obviously subjective, but I think the stereotype lends to those two opinions from men and from women being pretty close to accurate. And there was a whole fight that came from it. What do you think?
I've had these discussions before, and we spoke about something earlier. Said the eyeball test, right? So it's not that women necessarily prefer is a strong word, taller men, but when a woman sees a taller man, she sees security. Right, she approaches that with size, and she feels like she can find protection, right? Just immediate on the immediate. So it's not a preference. It's an immediate stimulus, right? So their mind is immediately stimulated in a certain way. All right, we are spiritual beings, right? We are spirits. We happen to function inside of a physical body, right? That physical body has certain instincts, right? Survival being one of them, right? And survival, and this is based on psychologists. This is not based on me. According to psychologists, a woman's instinct to survive is to be protected by the dominant, which is the male, physical dominant, because in a situation, all things being even, men are physically stronger, right? Now, when you go to the man and the younger woman, men look to survive through procreation. I need to make more of me, and this is how I survive, because when I get old, my sons will protect me, right? The younger woman is more productive than the older woman. It's a natural, instinctual, physical response. It's not necessarily a preference, because when you get into preference, you get into personalities, you get into the mindset, then it's across the board. It's like, who likes what for whatever different reason, And look, we got people that like the same sex. So how does that even apply? It's not even applicable. So there's something to it, and it has to do more with instinct than anything else. And people just got to get again, this is like a lot of conversations people have. And unfortunately, at this time, when the governor comes in with the 9 executive orders, folks, black folk, we don't have time to debate feeling. We don't have the time to debate facts with feelings. I need black people to stop telling me how they feel. Let's talk about some facts, and let's talk about what we're going to do. I don't care how you feel. Because if I take your feelings to the store, I can't buy anything.
I have Steppin, Marcus J, live from New Den, Legacy Internet Radio. 804-402-2893 is the number to dial. You want to rock with us, we'll roll with y'all. All right, so last thing we're going to get to that we're going to put on the table is today. What today is. We're celebrating today Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Day. And this has been a national holiday for many years now. And what I wanted to do, John, was kind of talk to you about how you feel about the holiday and where we go from here. There are some that just happy to have the day off. There are some who don't think that we should have the day off. There are some that look at the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and are filled with pride. And there are some who really don't understand why it is a big deal. I look at Martin Luther King as a moral compass, someone who was unwavering in their desire to attain equality for his people and all people who have been marginalized. I don't think that he had heat with anybody, but I think that he was someone who was very strong towards lifting the veil of hypocrisy along white supremacy and giving that power back or distributing it back equally. I have no doubt in my mind, no matter how controversial this may sound, I have no doubt in my mind that he would have been equal. He would have been for equality for all people if he was still living with us today in 2022. And that includes beyond Black folks in our communities and the traditional civil rights argument. I think he would have been someone that would have been celebratory of the LGBTQ community. I think he would have been someone who would have been pro DACA and pro immigration and those caravans coming to our country from other countries. I think he would have been sympathetic to them. While maybe he wouldn't have been, come here and just be here, but I think he would have been sympathetic to them running from their countries to come here. I think often we romanticize who he is and who he was and who he would have been. I think that when we look at generationally, we look at how old we are and we look at our elders. Martin Luther King would have been he would have been 5 years younger than my youngest grandparent. To put in perspective how possible it could be for him to still be here. We lost Sidney Poitier at 94 years old, but 2 days ago, Martin Luther King would have been 93. So he could have still been here, you know? And so there are a lot of different areas that we can go here. I purposely said a few things that were all over the map because I wanted to put all of those different perspectives on Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Day on the table for you, for our viewers, for our listeners, for anybody who is partaking in this discussion to comment on 804-402-2893. So I'll just, I'll ask you simply, what does this day mean to you? You go wherever you want to go.
First thing I'm going to say is nostalgia reaps its best benefit from romance. Right? Martin Luther King, Malcolm X were very young men when they were murdered. They had not even truly became themselves. They were still finding themselves politically as men. And they didn't even know that because they didn't live old enough to understand that. But any man past 45 will tell you that you begin to find yourself in society with politics around that age. They didn't make it there, right? The holiday, any kind of holiday, it always relates back to me to the finance. You know, how is it going to be monetized? Is it going to be monetized? Or is it a sacrificial lamb? Which I kind of think it is. It's something to watch this shiny thing over here as I go murder, as we go find a trailer with 400 little black girls stuffed in it someplace in Indiana, and let's not talk about it. Because that's what? It's Martin Luther King Day. Yay, shiny, shiny thing over here. Right? His contribution to society is unquestionable. His gifts as an orator and motivator and organizer are unquestionable. He had the best in mind. He had the best for his people. Equality for all people, I believe, is a false narrative. There is no inequality without black people. There is no black people without white people. And I don't mean that as it might seem, right? But the only reason why white people ever started calling themselves white was because of black people. The only reason black people are called black people is to be the antithesis of white people and to represent everything negative. If you don't believe me, ask an electrician. We have to, again, not be caught up in the hype or the spin. We have to stay steadfast in our understanding of what is happening around us, right? Like you said, non-executive orders for the governor of Virginia. I don't even know. I've been so disappointed. I don't even know what Joe Biden is doing. I have no idea, if anything. All I know is next week, I'm sure we're going to have another variant, right? With probably some letters instead of a name because people made too much fun of the names, right? And some other reason for them to infringe upon people's liberties, right? Forget about the fact that a person should do the right thing in order to not infringe upon other person's rights and liberties. But more importantly, the people who are supposed to support and encourage those liberties should not be able to infringe upon them.
Let me ask
on
you
your
this.
behalf.
Let me ask you this. I alluded to how Martin Luther King could potentially, given that he was murdered, and it's been documented that the United States government was complicit in his murder by virtue of their apology to the King family. So they admitted that they were complicit.
The pillow, not the bullet.
Does it matter?
Yeah, it
Why?
does.
Why?
Because again, it goes back to the conversation, right? It goes back to not only do you not want us to learn history, but you don't even want us to learn the lie history that you told, right? You don't even want to get into the truth because the truth is the bullet didn't kill him. He was smothered. There was a settlement and an apology to the King family, right? But they don't want to teach that. And why? Because America's a bad place.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, I live here. I'm not moving to another country for anything because I celebrate under the protection of the greatest destructive force ever known to man, which is the U.S. military.
Well, here's what I will say about what you said. I have heard the version of history stating that he was smothered after he had gotten to the hospital. But what he got was a kill shot. So he was going anyway. And so while I know that history, or at least I have heard that theory, it doesn't move me quite the way it moves you because he had a kill shot.
Oh no, I'm not moved by it in that aspect. What I'm saying is this, right?
That's not the first time you brought that
right,
up.
But okay, here's what I'm saying about that, right? Martin Luther King could have been 93, alive, and responsive, and his viewpoint and his ability to reach people could have been a game changer. This is why he was murdered. Right? And yes, I feel a way about that, but I also understand. Folks, this is, I don't want to call it a game, but it's a war. We're at war. Like, y'all got to get that through your heads. Nobody's trying to help you at war. Nobody's doing anything for your benefit at war. Stop acting like these people are doing nice things for you. They're not. Stop acting like they're ever going to do anything that would help you win. They're not. You have to find a way to navigate and negotiate through the system that is designed for you to fail miserably and find some success and stay quiet about it. Right? And be able to hold on to some of that success and pass it on to your children. So that one day, quietly, right, we will have amassed enough money to make a difference, enough control of certain things to make a difference, right? But all this talk and all this yabba yabba jabba jabba nonsense and all it, nothing. It's all distractions. It's all nonsense. It's nonsense. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Robert Kennedy, John Kennedy, Bobby Seals. If you was assassinated between 60 and 70, between 60 and 80, it was because you had the ability to influence people in a way that might have went against the design of what was going on in this country, which is very, very few people controlling almost everything.
You know what's scary about that? The fact that I agree, Bobby Seals, actually, we still have him. We haven't lost him yet.
Not by who's the one that got killed in the house?
And Huey got killed.
No, the one that got.
Oh, that's Fred Hampton.
Fred Hampton, excuse me, Fred Hampton. Yeah,
Huey got killed in the crack deal. You know, I think where I love what you said. I love what you said. I love the timing of what you said. You said anybody from 1960 to 1980, and we could play with the years, but the reality is what John just dropped on you is some real stuff. When you just look at some of the murders that came as a direct result of the civil rights movement, Goodman, Schwerner, and there's another one, can't remember. Cheney was the black one. You would think I would remember him. You know, the three dudes that were trying to get people registered to vote. Medgar Evers trying to get people registered to vote. You know, Martin Luther King, well documented. The four little girls who we just lost the last of the four moms recently.
Yeah.
You know, we talking about Bobby Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X. You know, and you know what was funny?
There was a guy.
You know,
I can't think of his name. I'm sorry, I got to cut you off. Somebody on the audience. There was a Pan-American activist from Africa who was murdered on the same day as Malcolm X.
Yeah, I think that was Patrice Lumumba.
Yeah, come on.
You know, the reality is what you said about how
Chavez, right? Chavez in Cuba too. Wasn't he murdered?
I think I know you're talking about, but you got to let me get this out because you keep making me lose my train of thought. But you know, the reality is anytime you have any person, male, female, black, white, whatever, that has shown that they are willing to put their lives on the line for the advancement of black people in this country, you will die. If that means, or you will be denigrated, or you will be neutralized. Maybe they will rock with your reputation, you know, and you can go all the way back. And see, you have to ask yourself, why is that? But then again, you really don't. You know why that is. But then when you get in this conversation, here comes the gaslighting. You over-exaggerating. It's not that bad. Look how much you've gotten, how far you've gotten so far. We've had a black president. Like, all of these things is exhausting. It's really exhausting. And if you have ever shown during that period that you said that you are for us, you got to go. You got to go. When you think of the United States government Just think about the symbolism of the United States government knowing what you've done to people. If you was really about equality and trying to make right, you would not be looking at being complicit in the murder of the greatest civil rights leader this country has ever seen. You got a whole file on Malcolm X. You got the history of slavery through Jim Crow, through civil rights, through all of that. But you got the head of the FBI telling you that there'll no longer be any black messiah in this country unless we create them. And it just frustrates me to a point where you almost, you never stop fighting, but you get frustrated at people who should know better, who are having access to the same facts that you have, analyzing it different. Like, these people were for us. They were fighting against people like Bull Connor. You know what I'm saying? And when America saw water hoses on children and dogs being sicked on them, that wasn't enough to really, really change. And any single person in that era who made a point of trying to promote us towards equality was either neutralized or assassinated. And so you look at the next generation that came behind them, and some of them had some issues. Some of them in some ways sold out. Right now, I'm listening to Al Sharpton's book, his most recent book. And some would argue that him, Jesse Jackson, Mark Morial, a few others, are the closest that we have ever seen to civil rights leaders in this next generation. You have to ask yourself, why haven't they been assassinated? Now, you don't want that. You never want that. You never want somebody to die. But are they conducting themselves in a less authentic way? Or is it just that we don't kill our leaders anymore? I don't know.
It's a different form of assassination.
Character?
Yeah. Have you ever heard Bill Cosby talk about race relations in America?
Oh, yeah. Bill Cosby was neutralized. Now, Bill Cosby got a lot of self-inflicted wounds.
That's not even
it is
in question.
When you bring up Bill Cosby, you got to acknowledge his self-inflicted wounds and how it neutralizes his credibility in these conversations. I have heard him, and I agree with you. I see where you're going, and I respect where you're going. Not a good argument.
But let me explain to you why I have to make the argument. Right? This is why I have to make the argument. We can no longer fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Right? Which is what it was. I don't agree with the accusations against Bill Cosby, and I'm quite sure he did some outlandish things, right, that should have been addressed. Should have been addressed when they was going on. However, as many other people of prominence who have more than accusations against them, who still sit in positions comfortably and recognized as authorities within their field, right, says to me again, we have been hoodwinked. We have been fooled with the tomfoolery, right? So I say that to say they don't need to kill them. They don't need to shoot them. All they have to do is report on the news what they've done and tell Black people that they should be upset about it because they happen to be Black also. And that's enough. And and self-inflicted wounds come from the Black community. Because guess what? We afflicted upon ourselves because we destroy a resource based on what somebody else tells us we should find offensive or wrong, while they blatantly reward and promote the same behavior among themselves. But it goes back to what I tell you all the time. There's no way we can win as long as we see them as our God. Black folk, I'm sorry, most of y'all, the white man is your God. How could he ever do anything wrong in your eyes?
I used to trip off of that point, John, that you're making right now. When in the early years of this show, I would say, and I look, right in the face of who I was saying it to, and they get mad at me. And I don't think you will, because you understand me a little bit different. But I would say that the average black person is afraid of the average white person. You walk around in a natural fear because of how we've been treated in this country. And I'll take it even a step further. We see situations where equality comes up in conversations, and you see a white person, and white people, if you watching and you listening right now, this is some real shit that you should hear, right? This is how fucked up history has some of us, right? We can hear y'all talking about how you agree with equality and race relations and how none of these things should matter. And there are some of us black people, while you saying all of the right things, looking at you like we got the face on, like we looking at you with the side eyes, like you saying all of the right stuff, but do you really believe that? Do you really believe, like, are you going to go back to your peoples and check them? Like, are you going to actually pay attention to the 45th president and acknowledge his behavior as being racist behavior? Or are you going to actually sit back and make excuses for his behavior? And I spoke to him because he's the easiest analogy, but a lot of y'all got Donald Trumps in your family. You got Donald Trumps in your churches and your Masonic lodges and in your hunt clubs and your social circles, and you can sit here and you can tell me, well, you got Huey Newtons and Fred Hamptons and Malcolm X's. Yeah, all responses to the bullshit y'all put us through, right? So that's the essence of gaslighting, and that's the conversation that we need to be having. When we have these conversations and you hear people like me say the things that I'm saying, oh, Marcus J is a racist. How? How am I racist? How am I racist for telling you the truth about life as I see it? And life is my experience has dictated my words and my feelings and my rhetoric. When I have history on my side, when I look at and you look at how regular, common white folks, regular, common black folks, and how we've interacted with each other, and how who's come out on the right side of really basic situations that didn't have to be big deals, and how we've been always made out to be the villain or the aggressor. This is the greatest mind fuck I've ever seen in my life. The greatest Jedi mind trick I've ever seen in my life. The promotion of black people being evil in this country. That lie being perpetrated by people that have perpetuated the greatest injustice in the history of mankind. From slavery to Jim Crow to civil rights era to Trump to gaslighting to not respecting people who look like me and John in positions that we've earned. Come on, man. Martin Luther King Day. This is what this is about. Conscientious stupidity or sincere ignorance? Which one you got? Are you sincerely ignorant to this? Are you sincerely ignorant to the history of this country and how some of us have been treated by others of us? Or is it the more likely example? You just legit, you're not conscientiously stupid, you are sincerely ignorant. Or maybe you are conscientiously stupid. Maybe it's a combination of the two, John.
Here's what it is. And this is the sad part, right? We often think that black people have suffered the most from the situation. And I'm telling you, and I tell people, and how you people look at me stupid when I say this, White people, if there's any of y'all listening, y'all suffered as much, if not more, because your mind has been jacked up so bad, you don't even know who you are. Right? You spoke about Fred Hampton. You spoke about Huey Newton, right? Y'all think those were bad guys? You think the Black Panther Party was bad people? And of course you do. And a lot of black people do too. You know why? Because you've been brainwashed. You believe the hype. The reason we have free breakfast in public schools is because of the Black Panther Party. Right? So don't tell me about the Black Panther Party being bad, because you don't know anything about it. You just believe the hype. You read the headlines that were lies about these people. Right? And here go, and this again, the white man, black people talking to you. Give him back his God. Give the white man back his God. Every Easter, you see Charlton Heston or Christian Bale, two people who could not possibly, in any fathom of imagination, be Moses, portray Moses. That makes white man your God in your mind. So when you see the white man, you see Moses, you see Jesus, you see all these people from the Bible, you see God. And so you always find this thing about it, you know, the white is right. They're white. The white people, and you praise and submit to them. It's done. Right? And until you can, if you can't do it, at least help your children to stop doing it. Stop dragging them into a building to look up at a white Jesus and praise him as God.
I trip off of this part of the conversation, John, because I go back to one of my favorite episodes of Good Times. It's the second episode of the first season, the Black Jesus
yeah.
episode, where JJ painted Black Jesus, and we can joke and laugh about how it was Ned DeWine and all that stuff. That ain't part of the episode I want to talk about. Part of the episode that I want to talk about is, if I want to give that grief and shade to white folks, I give it to us too.
Well, that's what I'm talking to.
And no, I got you. I agree with you. And this is my part. This is my statement on it. When we act like they are beyond reproach, when we see Shaggy from Scooby-Doo hanging from our stained glasses, and we picture that as the highest form of deity, or the representation of the highest form of deity, is the greatest form of self-hate that I can articulate. It upsets me when I think of Malcolm X and one of the lines of thought that he had. I'm not going to try to repeat it. I'll just kind of paraphrase it or say it how I can think it in my own mind. But we talk about the vision of white deity for black people, and for generations that's all we had. But when you know better, you do better. And I have a very difficult time, and I've always had a difficult time. That's the reason why I rejected Christianity as a young person. I've never been comfortable with it, and that's no shade towards any black Christians who are listening and watching this. But you know, the way it was given to me in my life, you know, it's always been a white man led religion that never fit the needs of me as a black child, and me certainly as a black man. When I look at how the world is gone, I look at how we've been treated, and how certainly my elders have been treated far worse than I have, but I can only really personally speak to how I was treated, and by white people, by white supremacy, by white-led organizations and groups that I have dealt with, like the police, like the teachers, like the clergy, you know, and that's all I saw as a younger person. Now, I was exposed. Of course, I saw black people in those positions, but we live in a white world. Let's keep it funky. You know what? We know what I'm talking about here, right? And I'm supposed to see all that and not feel inferior. How do you not feel inferior? How do you not? They tell you in Christianity, you're supposed to fear God, right? You're supposed to be scared of God. You're supposed to fear God in some sort
Absolutely
of
not.
in some sort of respectful manner. You're supposed to fear your deity.
You're not
Of-
supposed to.
But that's how it's taught, and
That's how it's manipulated.
but we can acknowledge for the purpose of the point I'm trying to make. You
Yes.
understand what I'm saying?
Right.
You understand what
But
I'm
I
saying?
want to be careful with the words because that's how people get tied into it, and that's how they come back and spin it and all this other kind of.
Well,
crap.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You're being
see,
manipulated, not taught.
But that's what I'm talking about. And when we see God, oftentimes we see God in the white man's image, just like the white man sees God in the white man's image. And the same white man is giving you shit all the time. So how do you expect that God ain't giving you shit all the time?
And you know what? Fear him and accept it because heaven will be waiting for you after you die.
Yeah, but he gets to but he gets to have some version of heaven right here on earth while he's living.
Because he's divine. He's God. Don't question it.
And he's white.
Because he's God.
See, again, these are the things and the conversations that oftentimes we don't have openly and publicly because we're afraid of the race conversation. I ain't never been afraid of the race conversation because if you know me, you know I'm going to treat you the same no matter who you are. When I see you, I'm going to greet you. What's up, brother? Peace, sister. And I treat everybody that way. I'm one of those people, I'm going to treat you how you treat me. And the minute that you start acting funny and your energy ain't right, I'm going to give you the same energy. That's how I move, white or black. But I'm also one that has analyzed enough about how we are treated in this country. I know what's real. And it's upsetting. We don't often get to talk about how it makes us feel because we have to be so strong all the time. We got to be so strong. We talk about our feelings. That shows a sign of weakness. But you know what, John? I'm tired of that. I'm pissed off. I think that we should be equal. Why? Just because we people. And I think we should demand it in how we move and how we project strength in every single walk of our life. And whoever don't like it, fuck them. Period.
Here goes my only issue with that. And something you said earlier. You was talking about the advancement of black people. And you speak about equality for black people. That's part of the mind fuck. Bruh, there's no advancement. Advancement would have to suggest that we were moving. Right? Equality would have to assume that there's some reason or basis for it to exist. It isn't, and it doesn't. Right? We are a conquered people. We are prisoners of war. We lost the war. 1492, the Moor Empire turned back over the control of Europe to the Queen of Spain. It went back to North Africa. Spain and Portugal and other nations then launched the greatest expedition the world has ever seen that we know about and sent ships over into the Americas and the Caribbean and began raping and pillaging the entire world. And it's been that way ever since. We got to understand something. White people's reign in the world is young, right? Before there were white people on the planet, black people ruled the world. And even for a greater period of time, if we go from year 0, to 1492, that's 1492 years of black rule of the entire planet. They just had it since then to now. What's that, 700 years? Something like that? So they got more time. And, it's ups and downs. It's really not, unfortunately, it's really not about black and white other than the fact that all things being equal, white people don't exist where black people are. They cannot. In order for them to survive, they must suppress us. They cannot survive without us. But if we are not suppressed, they will cease to exist within about 150 years.
The hard part of this discussion is the individual basis, because there are most folks don't understand the essence of white supremacy and how you can be white and benefit from white supremacy even if you reject it in your verbiage. And you can say the things that sound good, but if you benefit from it and you don't aggressively and outwardly reject it, then you are part of the problem and you will always be complicit. And that's just what the reality is. And, when you have some of our extreme brothers and sisters say some very uh, aggressive things toward white folks that sound harsh towards the individual white person, and they become offended, that's just a shot that you're going to have to take because you benefit. And when you've been shown how you benefit, you reject it. And you say things like, my ancestors, or not even my ancestors, I didn't enslave no black people, so why are you giving me stuff? Like, you're not even trying to understand. you ain't even trying.
You know who I give sort of a pass to, but not really a pass? You have white people who have children with black folks. And you know what that says to me? That says to me that that's a white person who's all right with the idea of there someday not being any white people.
But you know what cracks me up? It's their parents that have the most problem with it until that kid comes.
Right. But see,
and then they love the kid.
But that's the thing. Once you can wrap your head around a world where you won't see white people, if that's all right with you, then we can start dealing with things in a rational manner, and we can start talking about all of the horrible things done up until the point of that conversation with some real ideas on how we can get past it, get over it, and begin to live in a true society with civility.
Right.
But until we can have that, until that reality is set, until somebody with some type of authority says, listen, white people, we're done here. In 150, 200 years, there's not going to be any more white people to find. And that's not saying absolute, because there are no absolutes. You might find some towns in Scandinavia where they're all white, and that's wonderful.
But then they'll never give up the power, though.
Right. But it's at a certain point, okay, I had a conversation. What we share as brothers, right?
Yeah.
And I had a conversation, and someone asked me, why did we give it all up? And how did they get it? And I said, we gave it up with an understanding of, if we had kept it, we would have lost it, because we knew at the time that what was coming up, we would not have been able to sustain it. So we gave it to them to hold. Plus, we also knew that they couldn't possibly reap the ultimate benefits of it because it's not their nature. But in them having it, generations from now, you and I have it from the time that we gave it up. It was strategic, right? And this is how we have to approach this situation in strategy, right? We have to stop all of the feeling. We got to stop all the singing and dancing and shucking and jiving. We got to deal with straight fact. We have to be solution-oriented individuals, because we have problems. We have serious problems. We have to accept the fact that we are defeated. We lost the war. We are prisoners of war. We are captives. Some of us are able to negotiate the terms of our imprisonment better than others, but we are actively prisoners of war. We have to either have the declaration of war abolished, or we have to somehow escape our imprisonment. But one of the two has to happen before we can even begin to remotely think about such lavish terms as equality and advancement.
And have Steppin Market Share live from New Den Legacy in that radio. Renee Day says, ask yourself why, quote, you know who, end quote, never wanted slaves to be able to read. I can dig it. They didn't want us to be able to read because they know that knowledge brings power. And if you have power, you can potentially usurp them. And nobody wants that. At least they didn't want that. Ain't no hashtag Marcus J live from New Den Legacy Net Radio. All right. So we will transition, John, to the final stage of the show. We get through our housekeeping, our rants, our closings, our moments in Black history. I don't think that today's show would benefit from multiple moments in Black history. So I'll just give one. On January 15th, 1991, the United States Supreme Court uh, ends federal desegregation order, even though that will cause racial resegregation of school system and the Board of Education of Oklahoma City Schools versus Dow. Actually, that's not the one that I thought it was. But with this being Martin Luther King Day, I think that would be the only moment in Black history that I would want to speak prominently on. And I think the fact that we spent most of the last hour on it will suffice. And you know, hashtag Marks J Live for New Dan Legacy and that radio. All right, so we're looking for three children, missing children. One in Richmond, one in Henrico, and our first being in Petersburg, Virginia. Nyala Clater has been missing since December 8th of 2021. She's a 14-year-old Black female who stands 5'6", 150. Nyala was last seen on December 8th. She's got a tattoo of a broken heart between her right thumb and forefinger. If you've seen Nyala Clater, please contact the Petersburg Police Department at 804-732-4222. We're also looking for Ernest White, who has been missing since December 15th, 2021. He's a 15-year-old Black male who stands 5'5", 100 pounds. He may still be local. If you've seen Ernest White, contact the Henrico County Police Department at 804-501-5000. And lastly, if you have seen Brianna Jones, please contact the Henrico County Police Department. She's been missing since January 2nd, 2022. 16-year-old Black female. She stands 5'11", 170 pounds. If you've seen Brianna Jones, please contact the Henrico County Police Department at 804-501-5000. So if we've seen Brianna Jones, if we've seen Ernest White, or if we've seen Nyala Clater, please contact the National Center for Missing and or Exploited Children on their website, missingkids.org, or contact them at 1-800-LOST, 1-800-843-5678. Ain't no hashtag Marcus J live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio. John, you have the con. We're going to move to our rants. We're going to move to our closings. And, you know, you can go wherever you want. I'm going to probably stick to where we just were, just because of the mood that I'm in and the feeling that I'm having. But obviously, as we close out our show, you can go wherever you choose to go. But I've already tipped my hand. So it's time for you. You've got the con, your rant, your closing. What you got, bro?
I'm gonna pivot a bit, and I want to speak to Black folk. And listen, I don't even like the term. Right? We are people of recent African descent. We are indigenous nationals to this landmass. I haven't ever met a Black person. To be Black is to be devoid of color, the absence of light. And we exude light in every shade. But I'm gonna speak to you, and that's the only term I got that I can use where people might listen. So Black folk, listen up. Men and women, this is important. We are losing ourselves through the destruction of our families. We have to stop trying to create our families in the image given to us by our captors, by our masters, slave owners, whatever you want to call them, our wardens and guards, they gave us an idea of family and we ran with it. And we wonder why we struggle with it. Right? We are a people who benefit and are held up by tradition of tribalism, right? Where the group is the family and it is a matriarchal situation, right? The mother, like the Mother Earth who gave birth to us all, is respected, and the most elder is the most trusted, and it is who we go to for what we need as far as information and instruction. We have to stop trying to live like our conquerors. Whatever your situation is in your home, whatever you need to do to make it work for you, make it work for you. Stop letting what other people have to say or comment about your situation affect how you move. Stop trying to hold your partners and family members to standards that are false, that were placed upon you by the people who do not want you to win. How do you think that you are going to live by a standard for someone who wants you to die? Right? How many women turn away from a man because that man is not the standard given to you by your captor, by your rapist? Your rapist is going to tell you the type of man that you should want. And what he's telling you is, I just raped you, so you should want a man like me. And that's the kind of man you're looking for. And fellas, how many of you have turned away from a woman or not even approached her because she didn't match up to the standard given to you by the man that raped your mother? This is what you accept, and this is what you strive towards. And he tells you, you go after this woman. You go after this woman because, see, I raped your mother. So I'm telling you, that's not who you want to go after. You want to go after this because your mother, remember, I raped her, so she's no good. So I'm going to show you what you need to go for, and that's what you go for. And we try to build families around this. We try to so-called have some kind of pride in ourselves when we're not even ourselves. We go back, I can take you back to the religion thing. There's a gospel song, it says power in the name Jesus. You know why there's power in the name Jesus? Because it wasn't his name. It's the name they gave you. It's a false Caesar that they gave you to praise so that you won't say Yeshua. Right? Because that sounds a little bit not white, don't it? But if you go to the oldest Bible that we have, which is in Ethiopia, in a place called the Holies of Holies, protected by a single black man with enough gold and crowns and things inside of it to take over a nation, guarded by one small black man, the Holies of Holies. You find a Bible, you won't find the name Jesus in it. You'll find Yeshua. But they told you that there was power in that name because that was the name of the first slave ship, the good ship Jesus, that brought people from Africa into the Caribbean. to replace the untold numbers that were murdered, raped, enslaved, and sent back to Europe. So start thinking about these things. Start thinking to yourself, self reflection, meditate. Take up some yoga like my bruh and sit down and meditate and think to yourself, say, what does my family look like? As a woman, say to yourself, what does the man who I want as the father of my children and protector of my home, what does he look like? Not what anybody else tells you he looks like, right? Not what car he drives or anything. What does he look like in your mind, in your spirit? Search it out. And men, do the same. Take some time. Take your time. And then take some time and think about who that woman is you want to spend your life with. You want to be the mother of your children. You want to be the creator of your home. Not the idea that's been placed in your head about what you think you want. That's my rant.
Ain't no half stepping Marcus Shea live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio as we move towards the close of the show. I'm excited. I'm always excited on this day every year. Martin Luther King Day every year. I'm excited about it. If you know me, I look to three men who transitioned, two before I was born, and one when I was young before I discovered him. One, I play his music as my closing theme every single week. You hear him, Nesta, Robert Marley, El Hajj, Malik El Shabazz, of course, Malcolm X, and then the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Those three are part of my hierarchy or my Mount Rushmore. Of course, you can add my dad and my grandfather, my brother to it, but those are the ones. And with today being Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Day, obviously the focus is on him. And, I see this brilliant man who graduated high school, went to college as a young teenager, and was an overachiever who did all of the things that you would think that you would want a young man to do in them days. He went to college, found a wife, started a family. He fought for his community. It grew bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where his community became a city, became a state, became a nation, became the world, became world renowned, has a holiday named after him. And his mission was simple. He just wanted everybody to be treated the same. That's it. That's all. He wanted everybody to be treated the same and don't harm people, nonviolent. And who wouldn't want to follow that model? Yet, there are some that were so adverse to that model that one guy took a gun and shot him in the face. America. So it's hard to be the one that's always promoting positivity and the one that's always promoting equality and is almost always promoting, how we should all live together in harmony. When the guy whose life and legacy that we celebrate today was shot in the face, and many of the people who descend from those who would have gladly taken that shot themselves are misquoting him and posting quotes and memes today to forward their own agendas, which couldn't be more adverse to what he was saying. Ultimately, here's the man that says that all men should be created equal. He said, believe in yourself, believe that you are somebody. And I always love to quote this particular speech. He said to the group, nobody else should do this for you. No document should do this for you. If the Negro is to be free, he should move down into the inner resources and reach down and say, yes, I'm black, I'm proud. That's what Martin Luther King said. And it's amazing to me how his legacy and his words have been misrepresented. We're not going to do that here. We're going to always celebrate him. Those of our militant brothers and sisters who have had issues with his nonviolence, I say to you, what would be your alternative? And how would you choose to fight white supremacy? Violently? See how that works out for you. That's what makes Martin Luther King so special, because he was for all people, not just our people, any marginalized people. When he would say things like injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I just love the legacy. I was looking at the calendar, and he had been gone 6 years at the time of my birth. And I just remember when I was younger, always having to do papers and Black history reports and things on Martin Luther King. And as I got older, I looked towards more militant members of our community to highlight, minimizing the struggles of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And then when I got older, I realized the strength and the power and the discipline and the dignity that they must have taken to continue on the path that he was on. He got mad. He wanted to smack the shit out of people. He wanted to cuss a motherfucker out. He's a man. He's a Black man. Just because he was a part of the clergy didn't mean that he didn't have those feelings. The same feelings that many of our viewers and listeners are having today as we navigate this wilderness we call America. But the thing that I took from him was that he was steadfast in his rhetoric. He was steadfast in his behavior, and he didn't waver because he loved us that much. So today we celebrate him, we celebrate his legacy, and we celebrate his memory. And I want to be the first and the last to honor him today on his day, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Day. That is Marcus's unrelated rant. It's got everything to do with what we're talking about here tonight. It's the end of the show. I want to remind everybody that independence is the key to building your legacy. I also want to say peace to all of the stars and all of the squares. In the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. Those are the words of Bob Marley, who you hear singing in the background. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We'll be back here live. And actually, before I go, I was about to close it out, and a listener is about to take the last word. So we got a comment here, and I need to find it, because often when it comes in where it came in here, I can't see who the person commenting is, although I can see the comment. So I'm going to where I know I can see the name of the person, and I can actually see the comment. So bear with me here for just a moment here. Let's see. Consider that nonviolence was a strategy to draw attention to the violence of white supremacy. That was the point of the community. I can dig it. You'll get the final word, and unfortunately, I can't see the name of who that comment is coming from. So my apologies, but you got the last word, and your comment was absolutely well received. Ain't no hashtag with Marcus J. We'll be back here live from New Den of Legacy Internet Radio next week, y'all. Next show. Holla at your boy. Peace.
All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Oh yeah, I'm with this, with it. I'm just gonna lay back and I'ma drop some smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. We about to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready. Let's go. Ain't no half stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah. Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah. Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you want to talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With you flowing this show, bring the heat. Yeah. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. Okay. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. Yeah. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. My brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk, run it back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk. Steppin', that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With you flowing this show, bring the heat. Yeah. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. Okay. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. Yeah. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. My brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk.